Hey friends, my name's Ruckstar, editor-in-chief of Raving Lunatic Media. I'm here to talk to you today about ads. Whoa, Ruckstar. Ads? Are you guys selling out finally? No, dear viewer. We are just going to be showing our support to the amazing shows here on Raving Lunatic Media, like Sci-Fi Malady, Zodiac Task Force, Why You Should, and the backlogs of the Casatorium, with more to come out in the next calendar year. If you want these shows without these annoying breaks in the middle, you can follow the link in any of the bios of the shows or on our Discord, Raving Lunatic Media. You'll be brought to a subscription page which will help support your favorite creators, us. Enjoy the show and stay crazy, lunatics.
You don't turn your back on
Sci-Fi Malady.
even when they do.
So, Rage, what's today?
Rage? You gonna answer?
He's not here, I guess?
Hey, what's this car coming up on us?
Is that car from the future?
It's a ghost car!
Sup, guys? Like the new ride?
Sure, but what on earth is it?
Oh, it's the Dodge MS4 from the factory in the future. Let's roll.
Sci-Fi Malady, Symptom 301, The Wraith.
You lose the race! You lose your car!
Welcome back, sickies, to Auto August. And before we get started on this episode, let me make something abundantly clear just in case it hasn't been already made so. You lose the race, you lose your car. Okay, does everybody understand terms? Does everybody
Yeah, that
get
seems
terms?
legally binding.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure, because, yeah.
No extortion or
Anyway.
anything. No.
No. So, I've been wanting to do this film for a while now. I was always wondering if this is this a sci-fi movie or a ghost movie? And then I decided it's both. So we can do this for the episode, right?
Sure.
Yeah, this is definitely in the neighborhood of sci-fi. I
Yeah.
would call it science fiction in some regard.
Yeah, I mean,
Futuristic magic car? I mean, that's sci-fi to me.
Yeah.
you know, when I saw this movie the first time as a kid, I remember seeing the engine when they opened it up to put the EMP device in it, and I was like, wow, that is awesome. So that's the part that stuck with me the most in this whole thing. That's the part that stuck with me. That and the fact that after they crash, the one little long piece of metal from his leg that flashes and disappears because,
Yeah, every time
lives.
that's a motif, and it makes no sense.
Yeah, every time he's supposed to die, he doesn't because part of his leg goes away?
Well,
Right.
and that's where it's a ghost, actually. He's supposed to be a wraith, which is a kind of ghost. That's where the magic comes in, I guess. I mean, it's not a great explanation, but there it is.
When does the coherent plot or functioning movie element come in? Oh crap, I said the quiet part, the ending review part early.
Well, I mean, since you mentioned that, I guess I'll talk about the movie. The film was made in 1986, and honestly, it does star a good cast. You've got the sheriff, played by Randy Quaid. You've got Charlie Sheen as the main actor, and what was the other actor's name? Darn it, I forgot. Oh, the point
Clint
is...
Howard.
Clint Howard. You've got some good actors in this. So, and as kind of an 80s... I don't know if it's not really B, but it's a pretty good movie about a sci-fi car, essentially. And that's what Auto August is. It's about sci-fi cars. So that's, here we are.
It's definitely a sci-fi car, that's for sure.
It is definitely a sci-fi car. So it takes place in Arizona, and this guy named Packard, who has a gang, and what he does is he basically will find someone driving in the desert, stop him, force that person to race him, and if they lose the race, they lose their car. And what happened was his girl, Packard, is like the quintessential bad guy. He's so bad that Andrew Tate would call him a successful human being. Like, he literally thinks his girlfriend Carrie is his personal property. Literally. I mean, he's like...
I think he's mistaken on the fact that she's actually his girlfriend.
Yeah. I think it's more of a hostage, but sure.
Oh, for sure. That's what she is. But as I said, he is the ultimate horrible human being. And his gang only follows him because they're afraid of him. Plain and simple. And, in fact, we come to learn that Carrie's ex-boyfriend, Jamie, is ex because he killed him. Packard killed Jamie. We don't find that out right away, but... and he basically just stole Carrie as a spoil of war, you might say.
Yeah, we found out pretty damn quick, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But Jake, a guy played by Charlie Sheen, shows up at a burger joint riding a dirt bike and befriends Billy, Jamie's brother. And they become friends, and Jake, has knife scars on his neck and back, which turns out to be, dun dun dun, the same scars Jamie had that killed him. But Packard's control of races to steal cars comes to an end when all of a sudden a Dodge M4S Turbo Interceptor supercar that's parked in the Scott's driveway right now shows up.
The Dodge Neon.
Well, no, it is a car. We'll get to that in fun facts. That is a real created car for this film. But it's driven by a guy who actually looks kind of neat in that 80s way. He's got black, head-to-toe black armor, and like they took leg braces and made him look cool. And he's got this gun, which is actually a real gun, by the way. We'll get to that. And he challenges people to a race, except he has his super engine that goes way ahead of the other driver, turns the car, and they crash and blow up. Like he commits I can't even call it a suicide since he's a wraith, but, you know. And then it reconstructs itself because it's a supercar. So some gang members, Skank and Gutter Boy, yep, that's their names. They're killed in interceptor races. And Rughead, the tech geek, that's his name, Rughead, the guy that, you lose your race, you lose your car. Gotta love these names.
Well, also, don't forget some very obvious drug and tweaking references that's stereotypical to an nth degree.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I forgot the scene where he goes in, where the Wraith goes in, he, like, crashes through Packard's chop shop and then pulls out the shotgun and starts going to town on it. Meanwhile, the whole time, Randy Quaid's sheriff is looking into the murder of Jamie because he's like 99% sure Packard did it. He just doesn't have the smoking gun is what he needs. And unlike the cops from Scott's upcoming quick rants, he's actually waiting to look before he leaps. So, more Randy Quaid type cops, a phrase I never thought I'd say. Huh. Things are very different today on this particular episode. But tune into Quick Rants to hear more, right, Scott?
Right. We're back for at least 1 week.
At least 1 week.
We'll see if I stay on schedule for 2 weeks. Yeah, it was pretty weird watching Officer Cousin Eddie play a competent cop.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I'm sure Thomas will agree with me. Let's see if Scott keeps on schedule. My answer is don't hold your breath. Although that sounds terrible. I should be encouraged.
I'm going to say we will see.
Okay, Thomas took a more positive approach. Let's go that way.
I may have placed a bet under an alias on the Raving Lunatic Media Discord that it doesn't make it past the 3rd week. So we'll probably get the 2nd week, and then my alias will collect via Venmo.
I see. Okay, so basically, Packard gets scared because most of his gang's dead except for Rughead, who just spills the beans on everything. So Packard tries to drive away, but of course he gets caught by Ghost Wraith car and has to do a race because of course he can't turn down a race. Why would he? And as we all know, he gets killed. And with his death, Sheriff Loomis again? Jeez. Decides to just call the whole thing off. Because the guy he was suspecting is dead anyway, so who cares? And then as Carrie arrives home that night, free from her captor, the Turbo Interceptor pulls up and Jake comes out. And it turns out Carrie realizes that Jake is the reincarnated version of her dead boyfriend. And luckily, she finds him hot, so she can carry on happily ever after with that guy.
Sure.
But first, Jake then needs to take the car, the Interceptor, to Jamie's brother and give it to him. So he gives the car to his brother, Jamie's brother, who has the funniest ending ever, as he stands in a parking lot screaming, "Jake!" And it's just funny and stupid.
Well,
I admit, every time I see it.
Well, there's also other weird stuff like the bike disappearing into the sky and tons of weird things.
Oh, because that's the ghost part. Which is funny because it is in a desert, so the Chief Wiggum thing makes nothing but perfect sense. But with that in mind, I mentioned that there were some fun facts about real items, so I might as well get to it. The Interceptor car was actually a real-life technological wonder, the Dodge M4S, which was a joint operation by Chrysler and Dodge, which wound up being the same company. Anyway, so they designed this for the film, and then they wound up making 7 versions of the car, some of which were just shells put over dune buggies for the purpose of racing or going onto desert sands. So, and it was powered by a 2.2-liter 4-cylinder, one-of-a-kind engine that exceeded 194 miles per hour. And the cost of this car was $1.1 million. Yep.
A $1.1 million Dodge.
Yep. So in other words,
how much was the Viper?
So in other words, they spent a lot of money on a car that only got made for the film. But I like it. I guess it looks
well. It's at least it's not as bad as some things. But yeah, at least they got a real-ish car.
Yeah, there you go.
Allow me to quote the prospector in Married with Children. Dodge is a damn fine car. Killed my first wife in a Dodge.
So, speaking of killed, while filming near Tucson, a crew member was killed and another was critically injured when a camera car flipped over because it was overloaded. Luckily, this was the only serious accident during I gotta love how they mention that, though. Luckily, this was the only serious accident during filming. Oh, well, thank God for that.
Personally, I also find that very interesting because there's a key word in there. Serious.
Which
means...
Yeah, exactly.
There was plenty of minor injuries that we just didn't have to do the paperwork on, so...
Well, when the threshold for serious is death... You really can't go much higher, can you? Unless you're going in body count.
There was that stunt double that fell off the cliff, but we picked him up from a traveling circus and no one knows his real name, so we didn't really have to report that one.
We're only counting the paperwork ones that we actually have to pay out. These are minor injuries and cuts and abrasions and bruises and broken necks. Don't count.
His name was Dummy T. Dummington.
A transmission landed on Clint Howard's head, but no one could tell the difference, so we didn't have to report that either.
It actually helped his looks out.
The the last fun fact was the weapon, the futuristic weapon. I called it a shotgun earlier. That's what it is.
It's a Spaz 12.
Yes, it's a Spaz 12 shotgun with a folding stock. And it was a tactical shotgun made in Italy, and it could function both as a pump action and semi-automatic modes. And the weird hook on the front is for firing the weapon one-handed with the stock extended, and that would wrap around the forearm. So
yes, with a butt hook.
They just
it's called
gussied it up. Yeah.
Sounds like that's an assault shotgun.
It is a semi-automatic pump action shotgun, which also has an auto
shotgun.
If it was a
which it
was a rifle with any one of those modifications, what would it be called?
If we want to get down it, it's a semi-auto.
It would be called an assault rifle.
Okay, so it's an assault shotgun. Happy.
Thomas, I'm helping you here. I'm on your side on this one. I'm making a joke about the stupidity of calling rifles that have been modified assault rifles.
I'm just saying there is no actual
Scott, this isn't
designation assault rifle or assault shotgun. There isn't a designation there.
Hey.
No.
Hey, shiny ball Scott. Moving back to the movie.
Teed a layup up for you, Thomas.
No, you keyed a rabbit trail up. The point is they gussied it up for the movie.
Not much.
And with that, well, I know, but it looked cool, I guess, with the black armor. So, and with that brings us to Rips and Picks.
Ooh. Can I start?
Okay, go right as you wish.
Hey, brother, I've missed you. I love you. I've come back from the other side to commit a whole bunch of murders and then leave you the murder weapon. Hopefully nothing bad comes of this. He gave the murder weapon. Once they find that car, that's the car that's been killing people.
That's funny. I never thought of that.
Here's the murder weapon, bro. Have a nice life. I'm going off with the girl.
I did think of that because I thought of that because I was like, isn't this the vehicle they're looking for? And you're leaving it in the town with the sheriff looking for it.
Wow. I mean, well, they make it clear the sheriff gave up on the search, but at the same time, though, it is parked in front of a store, so... Yeah, I never thought of that. Whoops.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
I'll give a pick. I like the look of the car. I think it matches the Wraith. The Wraith looks pretty cool with his armor, even if it's kind of, it's really that kind of dark wave synth look of the 80s, which is quintessential. And I also just gotta love, as another pick, the name of the gang members: Skank, Gutter Boy, what was the other one? Rughead. Rughead. I mean, Packard. Then you hear the leader's name and you're like, what? Packard? I mean, really? You just have a normal name. You're giving these cool, 80s Ninja Turtle type punk names to your gang, and you're Packard. Really? That you could have called yourself a million things, like Road Rash or something. Nope, you went with Packard. Okay, well, thanks very little. But at least his gang had cool names.
Well, are you really that surprised? I mean, this guy, I have a lot of questions about this guy's intelligence, period, but...
That sounds like a rip.
Well, I'm just going to rip the whole gang's intelligence. I mean...
Go right ahead.
Your entire stick here is we're a gang who get together to street race. And basically rob anyone else's cars, which apparently no one has ever gone to the police about this.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, so no one thought to go, hey, it was a bunch of guys forced me to race. Instead of just lifting the car while it was in a parking lot with no one watching.
Yeah.
Racing for pink slips was a real thing in the 80s, but It was voluntary. He didn't get run off the road by the gang.
Yeah, and also that's fine if you want to do that voluntarily, but if you're forced into racing over pink slips, that would be considered illegal. And
they knew it. That's why they were the bad guys.
yes, just also like how apparently he decides to snort and drink everything, which I'm just
Carburetor fluid.
yes, WD-40 up the nose.
Oh my gosh, like that. No, you should be.
You're dead, dude. Killing brain cells.
Dead,
You're
blind.
dead.
Which maybe explains why he carries this out. Like, he's probably thinking, so we gotta jack some cars. How are we gonna do that? Well, hang on, let me take a hit. Like, what if we race some? You really gotta stop taking hits of WD-40.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this. That gang should not be as effective as it is. It shouldn't.
Here's a rip I have. I cannot figure out how old these kids are supposed to be. On one hand, I feel like they're high school seniors. On the other hand, I feel like they're just losers in their early 20s who are still just cruising around like senior year never ended.
Okay, Scott, that's a good point. I was wondering that too. I'm going to chalk that up to the 80s when they made 20-sums and early 30-sums act as high schoolers.
Yeah, I mean, that I'm used to, trying to figure out if, like, I'm used to actors being in their 30s, but the movie doesn't make it clear if these kids are going to school by day and racing by night, or if they're just people in their mid-20s who never moved on from being high school kids.
It seems like 20s because you never see them talking about school per se, except some of I don't know. It seems to be like early 20s, but
it's summer vacation, Scott.
Usually the movie makes that clear. This movie didn't.
That's true. What other rips and picks we got? I guess I'll give. I mean, another pick. I'll give a pick for this that I liked, and this is just because of a childhood memory. I liked the way the engine looked. They made it look like a real engine, but they also added effects to make it look like, look at that sci-fi magic. You know what I mean? And
a little bit of CGI.
Although,
well, I guess not CGI.
Yeah. Well, whatever they did, paint probably. I would assume too. Another kind of pick. I'll give this a story one. So you might be tempted to say, why would you do kind of a reincarnation? Bring back Jake, but looking like another person. And the clear answer for this is because if you brought Jake back, or Jamie back, they would know right away.
Well, I'm just going to say he looks pretty similar too, so.
Yeah, he did, but dissimilar enough that it would not have stopped this plot from carrying out. Because if he was the exact same guy, this couldn't have happened. So I give it a writing pick for a film that has an overly simplistic storyline, which in and of itself isn't bad, honestly, because just thinking about how people like to write today, people like to write way overly complicated and complex. We like to go back and complain about if this were made today. If this were made today, before we even swap this character for that character or whatever, just as a basic storyline, this would be turned into some overly complex, complicated, probably there'd be a statement in there to the effect of something to do with clean energy because of the car. You know, they'd probably add that in, like someone trying to steal it so they can make clean energy cars. Maybe the evil corporation that wants to do that. I don't know. There'd probably be something with that. Probably something related to rights or struggles, or there'd be tons of things about feelings. There'd probably be a mental health angle thrown in there. They would just be overloaded with things that could work, because obviously, I mean, I'm so bad at names of the Carrie. She does not remember so well the murder because of trauma. I think someone would try to, and you could do something with that, but I think someone would try to overdo it with that. There'd be a good 30 minutes added of her therapy sessions. And that's not what this story requires. You could probably add it, but I think the problem is people don't know how to edit anymore. They don't know how to edit their own writing. They don't know how to look at a scene and say, well, do I really need that, or can I cut that down? Should I change that? So I give the credit for knowing what it is and saying, I'm just going to stick to that. Not just because of runtimes being different back then, but also the fact of this isn't that kind of a movie. I'm not trying to tell that kind of story, so I'm not going to overload it with a bunch of things. Whereas now it almost seems like, hey, you could add a special big meaning on that. Chuck it in the pile and dilute everything else. That's just my take.
And that is your opinion.
Of course.
I do have a pick, I guess. Other than being, and you're going to hate this, Mark. Mystery box. We're not explained. Most of this is not explained.
That doesn't bug me at all, because the story isn't about solving who is the Wraith. It's about a guy reuniting with his girlfriend and taking her back. You're
okay with not understanding how any of this works,
because it's irrelevant to the story. The story is not about figuring out how this Wraith works. It's just like Call of Cthulhu. The story is not figuring out the origins and how to stop Cthulhu. It's about how to box him in, and dear God, look what it's done to us.
Yes, but I think it would have been a better movie had they left some of the mystery that Jake is, I forget the other dude's name, but Jake is dead boyfriend reincarnated.
Jamie. There's an argument to be made about that, but the whole how does this work and what's the nature and why a car, you don't need to know that for this to work.
No.
It's not necessary.
Very, very true. I guess one of my rips on this would be any suspense, any drama, any tension is eliminated very early in the movie. You very, very quickly realize that Jake is the reincarnation of the murdered brother and boyfriend, and you very quickly realize that he is just here to kill every single one of them, and that he is going to. And then he's going to start. You see, by the time we're 30 minutes into the movie, you know how the whole thing's going to end. A movie should have some suspense. A movie should have something that makes you wondering what's going to happen. There's nothing to make you go, why should I keep watching?
But considering the length of the film, and the fact, does everything have to have I didn't know that until the ending? Not really.
No, but there needs to be some tension, some drama. I mean, there has to be something that you want to see what happens next. The car racing scene for me wasn't enough. I could tell you what was going to happen pretty quickly. They were all going to drag race him one by one. He was going to do the stop and turn sideways and have them crash themselves to death one by one. And he was going to kill them all and go off and live happily with his ex-girlfriend. Or his girlfriend that he's reincarnated with. The problem with that is, if you already know how it's going to end, and there's nothing that surprises you, what is interesting you?
Here's the thing, Scott. It's for you. It's not the suspense. It's the how. Because I could watch any of your episodes of Star Trek. I know how it's going to end. Remember what I used to tell you about Star Trek? My dad would say, of course, Picard's going to make the most humanistic, best decision, and it's all just going to work out magically. And even you had to chuckle and say, yep. So for you, it wasn't the end. It wasn't the suspense. It was the how is Picard to do it. And you didn't find the how in this film satisfying, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Right. You can have multiple ways to build suspense. It can be the how, it can be the end result. But there has to be something that you're like, okay, what do I want to watch for the next, in a TV show, the next 15-minute segment, or in a movie? What is here making me compelled to sit and watch the next 45 minutes of this?
And you were not into that how,
Yep.
that's all.
Right. Sometimes it's character development. You just love the character and you want to see the character win. I didn't have that here.
Okay.
Not Charlie Sheen's best acting.
Well, and that, no.
Not saying a lot.
Not one of his best films, no. And probably not one of his most well-known, to be honest with you. So,
I mean, to be fair, this is a good cast, that with the exception of Clint Howard, because he's not that good of an actor and just gets roles because of his brother. This is probably this is probably a bad outing for almost all of them.
well, they had to give him that, they had to give him the role because of that transmission that fell on his head, remember? Anyway, I think we're at a good point. Unless
Clint Howard, the ultimate stand-in for nepotism. Never would have had a job in Hollywood once if not for his brother.
Unless someone's got a final ripper pick they really want to drop down, I think that's... Anybody got a final one?
Not really. Not a final one. We covered most of them, so.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
What's that?
Rughead's car that he's trying to run to get into it. Sarah pointed this out, and I would have missed it. If you look at what's hanging in his mirror, it has two funny die. So it's got dice, and then it's got a cylindrical-shaped object hanging in between them. She goes, is that a penis hanging on his mirror? Rewound it, and sure enough, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but if it wasn't intentional, that's a pick. To make the fuzzy dice look like a ball sack and come up with truck nuts before they were invented.
Okay. Oh, before we move on, one final thing. I got to do a Star Trek connection. Scott, did you find the Star Trek connection?
I thought it was Vasquez Rocks, but it isn't.
Nope. It's Clint Howard himself.
Oh, yes. In,
your favorite
he's Baylock.
episode.
He's Baylock in the Corbinite maneuver.
Yeah.
But first, the Tranya. Yeah, that I did know that immediately. It was just too obvious for me to realize.
Okay, there we go. All right, well, with that, I think we are at the point to rate it. So, let's see, how many dodged interceptors do we want to give this thing?
Interesting.
So,
I will.
Want to start off?
Oh.
Yeah, I'll kick us off. Go ahead, Thomas. Go ahead.
It's enjoyable. It is a fun film. It's an 80s film for sure. I'm not going to say it's a classic. I'm not going to say it's the best ever. I don't hate it, though. I don't. And I would rewatch it, and I think it's a good film. I'm going to give it a 7 or a 7.5. It's enjoyable for what it is, as long as you know what you're getting when you go in. If you don't know what you're getting, you might be disappointed.
Okay. All right. Scott?
You know, this film doesn't age well. The not so veiled threats as to what he's going to do to the guy's girlfriend if he decides to just drive off if he loses the race, to some very cringeworthy jokes or lines that they tried to insert, to the treatment of to how Packard treats his girlfriend. It doesn't age well. It wasn't good at the time, but it definitely doesn't age well. You get into the fact that I can't remember these guys' names. I remember Jake. I don't remember the brother. I don't remember Packard's girlfriend. I barely remember Jake's brother Billy and Packard. I mean, as I said before, it's really a bad outing by Dennis Quaid. It's really a bad outing by Charlie Sheen. There's no real effort into the film. It lacks... I mean, it's got a plot, but it lacks any tension. It lacks any drama. You figure out what the movie is in the first 25 to 30 minutes and exactly how it's going to end. The most bad guys don't ever put up a fight. The toughest thing they have Packard do is just stand still while Jake, whoever, is shooting up the garage and not flinching. You have things like the eyes were the only thing removed from the crash that they never come back to and answer. You just put that out there and you never do. Not saying that's important, but it's dangling threads that you introduce. To me, it's sloppy writing. It was lackadaisical acting by people who were better than the role that they were in and knew it and just said, let me get through and collect this paycheck. And an uninspiring story that I think to me, it's a bad film. I'm going to give it, I mean, at best, this thing could have been a 5, but you've got the cringe that doesn't age well. I'm going to give it a 2.5. I guess it's got a coherent plot, a beginning, a middle, and an end, but there's nothing of interest in here. And there's no character that I care about, and I really should care about Jake. He's an avenging spirit who was murdered, freeing his oppressed girlfriend from the man who killed him and basically took her as a trophy. And I could give 2 craps about any character in this film. To me, it's just an example of a, hey, I got to make 5 pounds of sausage today. Here it comes.
Okay, well, those are very good points from both of you. I'll be honest, most of this is, I'll just have 2 things to add. Most of this is a nostalgia kick for me as a kid because I did like the movie as a kid. So that means you could argue that my opinion is muddled and not entirely objective at all, which I can't be, I'll be honest. Despite the rips, despite the legit points, I can't be objective no more than Scott can be perfectly objective with the film Armageddon. So, or anything with, oh boy, I can't believe I forgot his name. I'm getting Alzheimer's, I really am. What's his name? He played in Die Hard.
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis. Anything with Bruce Willis, Scott will like somehow. So that's just the way it is. But so at the same time, though, there does seem to be good justice in some guys using cars as a means of getting revenge. Use a race and kill him through it, because that's what he'd like to do. So I guess there's some degree of poetic justice in that, but mostly for the nostalgia, I'll give this film a 6 because I enjoyed it as a kid, and despite the fact that aging not always great, it still will have that place in my memory. But what do you guys think? You can tune in and tell us what you think at our Discord server. You can also go to Discord to see other projects we got going on, from Zodiac Task Force to the upcoming Janitor, which I'm looking really forward to. We also have Scott's little quick rants, which are coming back and hopefully being sustained. Time will tell. As well as anything else we got going on, you can check out at our Discord page. So you can also leave comments at
www.no. If you go to Patreon and we create a Patreon account and you send me $1,000, I'll give you the deleted segments and what the website would have been. Otherwise, only Mark and Thomas will know. Rage Master, what's left for them to do?
Stay sick, sickies.
I want to drink bleach to get rid of that URL.
Raving lunatic.